You survive the nuclear war, only to discover the next 5 years are far more deadly. The sirens have stopped. The explosions are over. For the first time in hours, there's silence. You step outside, expecting relief. Instead, you're greeted by a city that barely resembles the one you knew yesterday. Buildings have collapsed into twisted piles of concrete. Cars sit abandoned in the middle of empty roads. Smoke stretches across the horizon like a second skyline. Somewhere in the distance, fires are still burning. You tell yourself the worst is over. It's a dangerous mistake, because nuclear wars don't end when the last bomb falls. They begin a second disaster, one that moves slower, reaches farther, and kills far more quietly. Right now, you aren't just fighting to stay alive. You're racing against a planet that's about to change. Subscribe now, because surviving starts long before the disaster does. The first few hours feel almost normal. People emerge from basements, subway stations, and underground shelters. Some search for family. Others wander the streets in shock, trying to understand what just happened. Cell phones don't work. The internet is gone. Radio stations have fallen silent one by one. Without information, rumors become reality. Someone claims another wave of missiles is coming. Someone else insists help is only hours away. Nobody knows who's right. That uncertainty is more dangerous than most people realize. When people don't know what's happening, they stop making good decisions. Some rush back into unstable buildings to recover valuables. Others waste precious energy driving toward cities that no longer exist. Many assume emergency responders will arrive soon. But there are no sirens anymore. No ambulances. No rescue teams. The system everyone depended on disappeared the moment the bombs fell. That means every decision you make now carries more weight than ever before. You look up. The sky seems darker than it should. At first, it doesn't feel important. Fires always create smoke. Cities have burned before. But these aren't ordinary fires. Entire neighborhoods have merged into gigantic firestorms. The heat is so intense that the flames create their own wind, pulling oxygen inward with hurricane-like force. Those columns of smoke rise higher and higher until they reach a place where rain can't wash them away. You can't see it yet, but above you, millions of tons of black soot are beginning to spread across the atmosphere. That cloud is about to become humanity's greatest enemy. As daylight fades, another problem appears. Water. You turn on a faucet. Nothing. The pumps that move clean water depend on electricity. Without power, pressure disappears. Within hours, even homes untouched by the blast begin running dry. The same thing happens with grocery stores. People don't loot because they're evil. They loot because they understand something terrifying. Every can of food sitting on those shelves is one less meal tomorrow. Within a single afternoon, stores empty. Not over weeks, not over days, hours. And once they're gone, they aren't coming back. The trucks that refill them have stopped moving. Factories have stopped producing. Supply chains, the invisible system that kept billions of people alive, have snapped like a thread. Most people never notice a supply chain until it disappears. By nightfall, another threat arrives. Darkness. Not ordinary darkness. A darkness without streetlights, without headlights, without city skylines glowing in the distance. The only light left comes from fires that continue burning across the horizon. And in that darkness, fear changes people. Neighbors who shared fences yesterday now lock their doors against one another. Trust begins disappearing faster than food. You face your first real survival decision. Do you stay where you are, hoping someone restores order? Or do you leave, risking everything for supplies that may already be gone? There isn't a perfect answer, but hesitation has a cost. The longer you wait, the fewer choices remain. Then morning comes. You expect sunlight to bring hope. Instead, the sky looks wrong. The sun rises behind a gray veil, dimmer than you remember. The air feels colder, even though the calendar insists it's still the same season. You tell yourself it's just smoke. It'll clear in a day or two. But it won't, because this isn't weather. It's the beginning of nuclear winter. And tomorrow, you'll discover that surviving the bombs was the easy part.
24 hours pass. The fires are still burning. From the ground, they look smaller now, almost manageable. But high above you, they're becoming something far more dangerous. The smoke doesn't drift away like an ordinary wildfire. It climbs higher, and higher, until it reaches the stratosphere, a part of the atmosphere where rain can't wash it out. That black cloud isn't disappearing, it's spreading. Every hour, it stretches farther across the planet, blotting out more sunlight than the day before. You don't notice it immediately. Most people don't. The change is subtle, almost impossible to detect from one sunrise to the next. But after a week, something feels wrong. The afternoons never seem as bright. Shadows aren't as sharp. Even at noon, the sky carries the dull gray color of an endless, overcast day. You convince yourself it's temporary. Nature has other plans. The temperature begins to fall. Not freezing, not yet. Just enough that mornings feel colder than they should. The kind of cold that makes you zip up your jacket, even though it's supposed to be summer. At first, nobody panics. Weather changes all the time. But this isn't weather. It's the beginning of a global chain reaction. Plants depend on sunlight the same way you depend on food. Take away enough light, and life begins slowing down. You notice it first in small gardens. Leaves stop growing. Vegetables remain tiny. Fruit trees bloom late, or not at all. Farmers across entire countries watch healthy fields slowly lose their color. Nobody has enough information to understand why. They only know something is terribly wrong. And while the crops struggle, people start making desperate choices. You walk into a grocery store hoping yesterday's chaos has settled. Instead, the shelves are almost empty. The fresh food disappeared first. Milk, bread, eggs, then the canned goods, then bottled water. Even pet food is gone. Not because people suddenly needed it, but because hunger changes the way people think. When tomorrow becomes uncertain, everything becomes valuable. You begin seeing things differently too. A sealed bag of rice no longer looks like dinner. It looks like time. Every bottle of clean water represents another day. Every flashlight battery becomes another night with light. Survival isn't measured in money anymore. It's measured in supplies. Outside, the roads remain crowded, not with commuters, with families leaving cities. Some head toward the countryside, believing farms will have food. Others search for relatives. Some simply drive, because standing still feels worse than moving. Most don't realize millions of other people are making the exact same decision. Traffic becomes permanent. Fuel becomes impossible to find. Cars abandoned on highways slowly become monuments to hope that never reached its destination. Then the power fails completely. Not just in your neighborhood. Entire regions go dark. Without electricity, refrigerators stop preserving food. Hospitals lose critical equipment. Water treatment plants shut down. Gas stations become useless. Even if fuel still exists underground, no electricity means no pumps. Civilization doesn't collapse all at once. It shuts down one system at a time, and every system depends on another. Lose electricity, you lose water. Lose water, disease follows. Lose transportation, food disappears. Most people only realize how connected everything is after those connections are gone. By the third week, silence has replaced normal life. No airplanes cross the sky. No trains pass in the distance. Factories no longer hum. Even birds seem fewer. The world feels empty. You start paying attention to sounds you never noticed before. The wind, footsteps, distant voices. Every unexpected noise forces your heart to race, because uncertainty is exhausting. Your body isn't just surviving hunger, it's surviving constant stress. Every decision becomes heavier. Do you eat today or save food for tomorrow? Do you stay hidden or search for supplies while there's still something left to find? The wrong choice may not kill you today, but it could decide whether you're alive next month. Then, one morning, you wake up to frost. Not in winter, not in late autumn, in the middle of what should have been the growing season. Fields that were already struggling now lie beneath a thin layer of ice. Farmers don't need scientists to tell them what this means. The harvest is gone. And if there's no harvest, there won't be another chance until next year. The terrifying part isn't that food is running out. It's that almost no new food is replacing it. For the first time in modern history, humanity isn't living off the next harvest. It's living off the last one. Every meal you eat now is one that can never be replaced. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the sun grows just a little dimmer. The air grows just a little colder. In a few months, people won't fear the bombs anymore. They'll fear an empty plate.
Months pass. The explosions have become memories. The smoke hasn't. The world is colder now, not because winter arrived, but because the sun never truly came back. Every morning feels the same: gray skies, freezing winds, and another day without enough food. By the time the first year ends, the disaster has changed. The bombs are no longer the biggest threat. Hunger is. You don't notice famine the way you notice an explosion. It doesn't arrive with fire. It arrives with smaller meals, skipped breakfasts, empty shelves. Parents pretending they're not hungry so their children can eat one more night. At first, people ration. Then they bargain. Then they steal. Eventually, they fight. Because hunger changes more than your body. It changes your mind. Every decision becomes harder. Every stranger becomes a possible threat. Every rumor about food becomes impossible to ignore. Some communities collapse under that pressure. Others survive because they understand something most people don't. In a world with limited resources, cooperation lasts longer than violence. The groups that share food, protect one another, and organize responsibilities almost always outlast those ruled by fear. Survival isn't just about strength, it's about trust. By the second year, nature begins changing in ways no one expected. The forests grow quieter. There are fewer birds, fewer insects. Even the rivers seem different. Fish become harder to find. The food chain is breaking apart. Without enough sunlight, tiny ocean plants begin dying. Those microscopic organisms feed almost everything else in the sea. When they disappear, everything above them begins disappearing too. The planet isn't just getting colder, it's becoming less alive. You begin noticing something else. The nights are darker, not because the smoke has increased, but because there are fewer lights anywhere on Earth. Entire cities sit abandoned. Roads crack beneath weeds. Homes slowly become part of the landscape again. Nature doesn't care who built them. Given enough time, it always takes them back. By the third year, the sky begins to change, almost too slowly to notice. Sunlight becomes a little stronger. The air feels slightly warmer. For the first time in years, hope returns. Some survivors plant seeds again. Most never grow. The soil has been frozen. The climate remains unstable, and seeds have become almost as rare as food itself. You realize something important. The people most likely to survive aren't the ones with the biggest stockpiles. They're the ones who never stop adapting. They repair instead of replace. They learn instead of panic. They solve problems before they become disasters. Knowledge becomes the most valuable resource left. A mechanic is worth more than a luxury car. A farmer is worth more than gold. Someone who knows how to purify water can save an entire community. The world has changed, so survival has changed with it. By the fourth year, small signs of recovery begin appearing. Grass returns to abandoned fields. Animals slowly migrate back into places they disappeared from years before. Communities become villages. Villages become towns. Not because life is easy, but because people refuse to give up. Human beings have survived ice ages, pandemics, volcanoes, and countless disasters throughout history. Not because we're the strongest species, because we're the most adaptable. Then, 5 years after the last bomb falls, you finally see something you almost forgot existed. A bright sunrise. The smoke has mostly cleared. The sky is blue again. The cold is beginning to fade. The Earth survived, but it paid a terrible price. Millions, perhaps billions, never lived long enough to see that sunrise. Not because of the explosions, because of everything that came after. That's the lesson nuclear winter leaves behind. The blast isn't what decides humanity's future. It's everything that follows.
The food you stored, the skills you learned, the people you trusted, and the choices you made while everyone else was panicking. Survival has never belonged to the strongest. It belongs to the prepared. Because when the last bomb falls, your fight isn't over. It's only just beginning. If this survival lesson changed how you think about the end of the world, subscribe, because the next disaster might demand a completely different strategy.